Okay, so have you ever been scrolling through like Instagram or whatever, and you see those fitness people, right?
Oh, yeah.
And they're like crushing a marathon or something.
Right.
And there's this part of you that's like, that could be me. I could totally do that.
Yeah, the inspiration hits.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then, like 5 seconds later, reality sets in.
You remember those hamstrings?
Exactly. So that's kind of the vibe of this deep dive we're doing today. It's all about that bite off more than you can chew feeling, but, with a really inspiring twist.
I like it. Hit me with it.
Okay, so our source material, it's this blog post, very appropriately titled, Pushing Boundaries, My First 15K Adventure. And get this, it was published May 25th of this year, so pretty recent. And the author, they decided to tackle this whole 15K thing while they were stuck in lockdown, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, talk about limitations breeding ambition, right?
It's so true, though, isn't it? Like, when we're faced with constraints, that's when that inner drive to kind of push back
Oh,
really kicks in, whether it's, actual physical barriers or even just those self-imposed limits we put on ourselves without even realizing it.
totally. And this runner, their longest run before this whole 15K thing was a 10K.
Okay, so already a decent distance.
Oh, yeah. Definitely not a beginner, but still,
Yeah.
jumping to 15K, that's a big leap. And to make it even more interesting, this whole thing was inspired by, drumroll please, David Goggins.
Ah, Goggins. The king of pushing limits. It's easy to get caught up in the whole, like, no pain, no gain thing, which, by the way, can be a bit misleading. But what I find fascinating is the mental aspect of his whole approach. Like, the guy is a mental fortress.
Oh, absolutely. And our runner today, they definitely seem to have taken that no pain thing to heart, maybe a little too literally at first, but we'll get to that. First, let's set the scene. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Picture this. Crystal Palace, London, beautiful spot.
Yeah, I've been there. Gorgeous.
Right. But it's also known for this killer hill, like seriously intense. And guess where our runner and their friend, who's kind of acting as their guide for this whole adventure, decide to start their 15K.
No way, the top of the hill.
Top of the hill.
Talk about a recipe for a rude awakening. You get that downhill high at the start, and then bam,
Yeah.
reality sets in.
It's almost symbolic, right?
Right.
Because it's like how we feel at the beginning of any challenge. You're all gung-ho, feeling good, and then you hit that wall.
It's the classic hero's journey, right?
Totally. And the blog even mentions that at first they're flying down this hill feeling amazing. But you know me, I got to bring it back to Goggins.
Oh, here we go.
So picture this, right? The friend offers a gel pack, some water, essential fuel for a 15K.
Absolutely.
And our runner, channeling their inner Goggins, is basically like, nah, I'm good.
Oh, no, really? That's not quite how Goggins works.
See, this is what I mean. Inspiration is great and all, but there's a difference between that and actual practical preparation.
100%. Goggins, he talks about pushing through pain, but it's not about ignoring your body's needs. It's about training your mind to be as disciplined as your body. You know what I mean?
Right, and it's like he always says.
He's all about that mental game.
He is. And, well, this is where we start to see that strategy maybe backfire a little for our runner.
Uh-oh. What happened?
Because guess what happens at the 11K mark?
They hit the wall.
Hard.
Yeah, the human body can only run on fumes for so long. It's like you're asking a lot from your body, right?
Especially when, surprise, surprise, there's a massive hill involved.
Oh, no, not the hill again.
The Crystal Palace Hill. Yep, it comes back to haunt them in the last few kilometers.
You've got to be kidding me.
I know, right? And the blog, it describes this almost comical scene where the friend is practically jogging circles around them, like totally unfazed.
Oh, man. Talk about adding insult to injury. But, that whole visual, it actually speaks to this really interesting thing called perceived effort. Basically, how hard something feels is hugely influenced by our mental state.
Right, so like because the friend was cruising, it probably made the hill seem even more daunting for our struggling runner.
Exactly. It's like having that external reference point, even without saying a word, was a reminder that, hey, this is doable. You're not alone in this.
Yeah, totally. And you can almost hear that internal battle in the blog post.
Oh, I bet.
But the runner, they kept coming back to this one David Goggins quote, "The mind will quit 1,000 times before the body will."
Oh, I love that one. That's Goggins at his finest right there.
Right. Because
Yeah.
it's not just about like physical endurance. It's about training your mind to be just as resilient. Like, how often do we limit ourselves just because of fear or doubt?
All the time. We think we've hit our limit when really we've barely scratched the surface of what we're capable of. And that's what's so brilliant about that Goggins quote.
Totally. He's acknowledging the struggle. It's like It's okay to feel that internal resistance, to have those doubts, but you got to keep pushing forward anyway.
Exactly. Because if it were easy, everyone would be out there crushing 15Ks,
So true. But that discomfort, that challenge, that's where the good stuff happens, the growth.
100%.
And it makes you think this goes way beyond running, right? Yeah. Any goal you've ever set for yourself, anything you've hesitated to chase after, that resistance, that's the mental wall Goggins is talking about.
He's basically saying you got to climb that wall if you want to see what's on the other side.
And sometimes you need to hit that wall, feel that resistance to truly appreciate what you can overcome.
Totally. It's like you don't know how strong you are until...
Until you have to be.
Exactly.
And that's what our runner did, right? Fueled by sheer willpower and a whole lot of Goggins-inspired grit, they pushed through that last kilometer. They conquered that Crystal Palace hill.
They did it.
They crossed that finish line. And the blog, not going to lie, right? They were completely wiped. But like through that exhaustion, something else comes through.
Oh, yeah, I bet. That feeling of, holy crap, I actually did that.
Totally. Proving that self-doubt wrong.
It's like this weird sense of accomplishment, It reminds me of another Goggins gem. He says, you are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential.
Whoa.
Right. And it's like this 15K, it wasn't just a distance. It was putting that idea to the test.
And they weren't even like planning on having this whole existential crisis. It just kind of happened.
That's the best kind of growth, though, isn't it? The kind you don't see coming. You think you're just going for a run, and bam, next thing you know, you're like reevaluating your entire life.
It's like growth is undercover or something.
Totally. And it usually shows up as like discomfort or a challenge. This seems impossible moments.
Which actually makes me think, for everyone listening, what's that one thing you've been putting off, that goal that's like buried under a pile of too hard or maybe someday?
We've all got them.
Right. Because what if, just like our runner here, what if the most rewarding journeys are the ones we're most scared to start?
It's always the ones you least expect,
And you know what else? Thinking back to the runner's friend, I feel like we can all use a guide like that. Doesn't have to be like an actual expert marathon runner.
No, not at all.
But someone who gets it, who's there to offer support, maybe a little perspective, or even just like a gentle nudge when you're about to give up.
Someone to remind you to fuel your mind and body, literally and figuratively, right?
Yes, 100%. Because sometimes the biggest growth comes from knowing you don't have to face the tough stuff alone. And, maybe even embracing the struggle a little.
Preach.
So as you go about your week, think about that, yeah?
Yeah.
What's your 15K moment? What challenge are you going to tackle? You want to hear about it. Share your stories, your thoughts, wherever you connect with us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep pushing, and most importantly,
Keep diving deep.
see shot.